The ride to school was short, and Ewan was definitely driving fast. We arrived there in no time at all. He rolled into a space and stopped carefully. For a moment, neither of us moved, until I realized I was still clinging to him like a wind-blown lemur. I released him quickly and staggered off the bike with far less grace than I would have liked. Ewan pulled his helmet off and swung one leg over like a pro while I fumbled to get the helmet off. Aw, he's so cool. I wondered how bad my hair looked as I handed it over to him. So while you were driving, I started wondering...
Is this going to be one of your typical questions?
I have no idea what you mean by... Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just wondering, you know, the head thing. What happens if it comes off while you're riding the bike? Ewan gave me an exasperated look.
Do you ever consider that some of these topics might be a little sensitive?
Well, it did occur to me. But I'm genuinely curious. I mean, I've never met a Dullahan before. You don't have to answer.
First, that usually happens at specific times of day or during emotional distress. So I just avoid driving during those times.
Usually?
If something unexpected happens, I just go back for it.
Somehow that mental image made me smile a little. That had to be annoying. How does that work? Like, do you see your body and you have to, like, direct it towards you? Kind of like, okay, no, body's going too far to the left, gotta readjust to the right. Ugh, that cannot be easy. Have you considered using those bungee strap things to tie it down?
I'm considering using one to see if I can strap your mouth shut, too.
Damn! Alright. I don't think we know each other well enough for that yet, but damn. Are you threatening me?
Has anyone ever told you that you ask way too many questions?
No. Yes. He scoffed as he stowed the spare helmet.
I guess asking dumb questions is better than fainting at me.
I didn't faint at you. He looked over his shoulder, a small smile on his lips.
Well, I'd rather you just ask openly than try to avoid talking about it altogether.
Thanks for the ride. Really. Segue. It's good to know, though, that he's like... Okay, if I'm being honest, the awkwardness of, like, beating around the bush is worse than just asking insensitive questions because of genuine curiosity. I will make a note.
Eventually you'll figure out how to get off my bike without nearly falling on your butt.
Oh, are we gonna make this a regular thing? Short legs and heels aren't a good combo for riding a motorcycle. Noted. Do not wear heels. Motorcycle equals bad. Thanks, Nora.
Then you might want to start at least wearing lower heels. Can't do much about the shortness, though.
Hey!
And wear a warmer jacket next time so you don't have to squeeze the life out of me the whole way here.
Hey! My face went hot again as he smirked and started away. How dare! I never said I'm riding with you again anyway. Baka. Nora? Gah! I thought you were riding with Spencer. Did you just get here? No, but I said I was going to wait around in case I had to break up a fight, didn't I? Man, you really don't have a lot of faith in us, do you? For good reason. Allie just shrugged. I sighed in return. Well, it's not like you're wrong. Spencer kicked me out of the car before we even left our neighborhood, so I rode with Ewan. He kicked you out of the car? Yep. I really need to have a talk with that boy. Ugh, I don't like either of these options. Although, I mean, if, in all fairness, there is no one else in the house that would be messing with Spencer's stuff. Logically, Nora being the culprit is the right conclusion, because he can't see the brownie. There's like nothing else that would be deliberately doing that. So, from that perspective, I can get it, even though it sucks. To be fair, it's not totally his fault. Something happened to him 5 years ago. Something I don't remember, but that probably has to do with my being Fae. Okay, we can bring that up too, but I was just talking more about, like, logic. But sure, we can bring up the emotional trauma. On top of that, the brownie is also still messing with him. Spencer knows something weird is going on, even if it doesn't make sense how I could possibly steal every single pair of boxers he owns. Someone had to have done it. It really did that? Yes. I don't think they found them yet. Allie snickered softly. I hate the position it puts me in. I either have to lie or play it off like he's crazy. Yeah. I know he's not fond of the C word. Well, he heard it enough before we left here. Even if I don't outright say it, he hates me for just invalidating everything he says. The whole thing makes me so mad, but what else can I do? I don't get why it's okay for Elliot's family to know he's a vampire, but I have to hide all this. Well, I told you that the rules vary a lot. The fact that you're Fae really complicates things. It would be dangerous to just go around blabbing about the Fae to people. I get that, but it's frustrating, I know. Come on, let's go in. It's freezing. And the bell was about to ring anyway. For a change, I was sort of glad to have a partner prone to falling asleep in literature. Elliot nodding off gave me time to just think, or sulk, whatever. I stared down at my playbook silently. The gap between me and Spencer was growing wider, and there was nothing I could do about it. I hated it. I heard Mrs. Roberts coming up the row behind us and gave Elliot's foot a good stomp. He jolted awake, sitting up straighter. Glad he didn't cry out. You're a line. I tapped his playbook helpfully as he rubbed his eyes.
Right.
He leaned over and stumbled through the line as Mrs. Roberts passed us.
Sorry.
It's fine. To be honest, I wouldn't mind a nap myself.
Tired?
You don't have to pretend I don't look it.
Well, you're kind of pale, to be honest.
Please don't tell me to eat liver again. Come on. Class is nearly over. We've got this. He shot me a tired smile, and we both leaned over to focus on reading until the bell rang. Thanks, Elliot. Class passed quickly enough. I barely survived trig. Spencer was back to totally pretending I didn't exist, which was probably for the best. I didn't have the energy to care anymore. I just ignored him as well and planned to do the same during chemistry. Staying awake was the issue at hand. Sleepwalking was physically draining, and dealing with Spencer was emotionally draining. I felt exhausted. During the passing period, I found myself leaning my head against the door of my locker, staring inside vacantly. I was contemplating the risks of sneaking up the club and trying to skip class. Mostly for a nap. I only had a few classes under my belt for the day, and already my head was hurting, and there was a distinct buzz in my ears. I rubbed my head, wishing my ears would stop ringing. But it was only getting worse. Uh-oh. The hallway and noise around me faded, and the buzz in my head grew even louder. Beneath it, faint and difficult to make out, I thought I could hear words. A soft chant that became clearer and clearer the more I tried to reach for it. It sounded almost like a song. Or poem.
Times I pleased you. Dear mother, learned lessons and to play, and dearly I loved little pale brother whom other bird have called away.
My vision darkened and everything else completely disappeared until the words were ringing loudly in my head.
Why did they bring me here to make me not quite bad and not quite good? Why, unless they're wicked, do they want, in spite, to take me back to their wet wild wood? I shall grow up, but never grow old. I shall always, always be very cold. I shall never come back again.
I jolted awake as someone shook my shoulder, and I realized I was still standing at my locker with someone behind me saying my name.
Nora.
Oh, thanks, Danny. I tried to shake off the haze as I glanced back at Danny. Did I just fall asleep? Standing up? Because that was definitely a new skill.
Nora?
I rubbed my face and gave him a tired smile. What? He looked away self-consciously.
I'm sorry. You seemed...
Danny peered at me again. So quiet.
Are you okay?
Yeah, just tired. I haven't been sleeping well. I think I just dozed off while getting my books. Worry creased his brow, and he didn't seem to buy that. Instead, he just watched me looking like he wanted to say something more. Did my hair turn white? Are you not telling me again, Danny?
You were just whispering to yourself, so I was worried there for a sec.
Whispering? Hey, you have, like, super good ears. What was I whispering? What was I whispering exactly?
Well, it sounded like a poem or something. Your voice just sounded a bit strange.
I leaned my head back against the locker, frowning. So I'd been saying that poem out loud? Ugh. I needed to be more careful. At least Danny had woken me up before I did anything too weird. Considering Elliot knew about the sleepwalking, Danny probably did as well. It was hard to imagine Elliot not mentioning it. Well, a lot of weird stuff has been happening to me lately, so... Danny regarded me carefully.
You mean the sleepwalking?
I knew it. Among other things.
What other things exactly?
I don't know. Weird dreams? Or maybe they aren't even dreams. Maybe the sleepwalking isn't really sleepwalking.
What else would it be?
Blackouts? Some sort of fugue state? I don't really know. It just worries me a lot.
Well, I can understand that. It's frightening to have a situation where you're not in complete control of yourself.
I gave him a long look. Yeah, he probably understood that better than anyone, what with his werewolf transformations. Though I wasn't really entirely sure how those worked. We do, though.
How has your research been going? I know you've been reading a lot in the afternoons while we're out.
Yeah, haven't found much, to be honest. Vilas's books have a lot of information, but it's not exactly easy to cross-reference things and locate specific information. At least not about fairies.
Well, they're a pretty diverse group. I'm sure there's a lot of information to sift through.
I'll say.
I'm sure you'll find something. I know everyone's been too busy to help you out since you joined the club, but that won't be the case for much longer.
I know. Samhain.
The agency keeps us pretty busy this time of year. But when it's all over, maybe the lot of us can sit down and help you out with this.
I appreciate the gesture, but I'm hoping to have found answers of my own by then.
Understandable.
He set his hand on my head, giving it a few playful squeezes. Head pat, thank you.
I'm sure it'll work out okay.
Thanks.
Come on, we should head to class.
I shut my locker and we walked together for a few minutes before splitting up to each go to our next class. This is nice. It's nice hanging out with the other guys again. I've missed them. When lunch rolled around, I decided I wasn't really up for more fairy meetings or orchestrated gatherings. I just wanted normal lunch. Getting so wrapped up in all these supernatural things was just starting to overwhelm me a bit. I needed a break. And unfortunately, I wasn't sure anyone in the club really understood that. I didn't know if Drayson or the others would be looking for me, so I hid in the school bathroom until the bell rang, then hid in the nearest empty class to read. The club was way more comfortable, but I had a feeling that if I tried to read there, I'd get pulled into the courtyard for lunch. And I just really needed to get away from all that. I slid into a desk and breathed a sigh of relief as I pulled a book out of my backpack. I'd gotten so sidetracked lately, it was hard to keep a focus on my research, especially annoying since my original goal was to try to find answers about why I kept disappearing as a kid, or what might have happened to Spencer. It wasn't like I was just doing some casual research with no real purpose. I pulled my journal out of my bag and, for the first time in a few days, took a few minutes to document everything that had been happening. Keeping a record of everything wasn't just helpful for research, it was also a bit cathartic to write down what I could remember. It helped me look at things from a logical perspective instead of just panicking about it. I paused as I wrote down what happened at my locker earlier. What was that thing I'd been hearing? Something about a pale little brother. I made a note to go through my books that evening and see if I could find it. Though I didn't know that it was relevant, it would drive me nuts otherwise. In a way, it had almost felt like the sleepwalking episodes, just less intense. And it had happened while I was awake. I chewed my lip as I thought about that. Maybe it was just because I was already so tired. Or maybe it just meant the sleepwalking wasn't really sleepwalking, which was kind of what I'd been feeling all along, but I didn't know what else to call it. I didn't know how to research it under any other word. I opened the book in front of me, Encyclopedia of Fairies and Lore, and started reading where I'd been before. Snatches of the poem flitted back to me as I tried to read. Do they want in spite to take me back to their wet wild wood? Take me back to the woods. Fairy abductions. I flipped back toward the beginning of the book to a section I'd just scanned before. I turned to a new page in my journal and quickly wrote a single word at the top of the page. Changelings. Wow. And then we faded to black. I felt so much better by the time school was over. I was still tired, but the much-needed time alone during lunch had really helped me to refocus myself enough to get through the day. Nice. Good on you, girl. I was feeling a bit more like myself when I dropped my books at my locker and quietly shut the door. I was also feeling accomplished after using my study hall and free period to work ahead in trig and chemistry a bit. That way I wouldn't have to worry so much about class and could focus more on other things. There were only a few minutes left before the final bell, so I figured I'd go ahead and go up to the club, avoiding the rush of students at the end of the day. I stretched, thinking about the research I'd started earlier. I wasn't sure if it was another dead end or not, and I sort of hoped it was. I didn't really want to think about what it would mean if I was a changeling. But there were some interesting parallels that warranted looking into. I was so lost in thought that I nearly didn't see Brenna lurking up ahead of me. But when I realized she was standing at the bottom of the stairs as if waiting for someone, I panicked and ducked into another hallway. I really did not want to deal with her at the moment. I went a little way down the side hall and pressed myself to the wall, wondering what she was doing. Hopefully she'd go away if I gave her a few minutes. I do understand your situation, but I can't continue to allow you to skip class. My ears perked as I heard a muffled voice come from inside the class next to me. Mrs. Roberts? She sounded like she was lecturing someone. Not wanting to overhear, I started to move away, until I heard another familiar voice.
If you understand, then I don't see why it's a problem.
Ewan? I paused curiously. It sounded like he was getting in trouble for skipping so much. Not totally surprising. You can't continue to hide from the world simply because you're Fae.
It's not just that.
I do understand why my class is particularly difficult for you at the moment, but you're going to fail if you don't start showing up.
You don't understand this at all.
I gave you the opportunity to supplement your grade by joining the drama club.
You think I can get on stage again like this?
Up on stage? What? You can always function as a member of the backstage crew instead. Given your history...
I don't want that! I don't want to join the drama club. I don't want to go to your class, and I don't want to be in this stupid school at all.
I realized I was eavesdropping on an obviously private conversation and quickly started away from the door. Definitely had not been meant to hear that. The door behind me flew open and Ewan stormed out just as the bell rang. He pushed past me through the students filing in the halls without even noticing me. I felt a pang of guilt at having overheard that. Biting my lip, I followed after him without giving it much thought. Oh boy, here we go. I was fighting against the stream of students heading to the front as I followed Ewan. Fortunately, he was tall enough that I could easily see where he was. He seemed to be heading for the stairs. Despite that he'd just stormed out of the class, he was walking pretty slowly, almost stumbling through the students. Is he okay? I tried to push my way closer to him. Ewan, wait! I didn't catch up to him until he had nearly reached the stairs. Fortunately, there were far fewer students on this end, only one small pocket of them loitering at the opening of the next hallway over. I grimaced as I noted Kara and a couple of her friends, but tried to ignore them. They were the least of my worries. Ewan looked like something was wrong with him, something more than just being upset by an unpleasant conversation. Ewan! He paused and turned back to me. His expression was slightly dazed, like he was half asleep or something. It felt off. Something was definitely wrong. He bent over slightly right as another student barreled out of the nearby hall. The other student's book bag connected with the side of Ewan's skull. Ewan didn't really react, but from my angle I could see his head tilt at an odd angle, as if it was about to fall. Oh no. It was a little sickening to see it hanging sort of off-kilter like that. I froze, eyes wide. There were other students right there. They probably couldn't fully see what was happening from their angle, though. Ewan put one hand to the side of his head, but he seemed really out of it. Sluggish and weird. A little wisp of green smoke slipped out, and with no one else from the club around, I did the first thing that popped into my head. Don't distract everyone else dramatically. It's terrible. That's gonna end so badly. I mean, he did tell us we had, like, sort of permission about, like, I at least want you to ask inappropriate questions rather than just skirt around the issue. So it's time to face our fears, not faint, and help our boy keep his head on straight. Let's do it. I ran to him, intending to help somehow, because in addition to the head thing, Ewan also looked like he might just pitch forward onto the floor himself. I mean, yeah, we're strong enough to hold up this giant fairy man. Let's do our best. I could only imagine the freak out if he fell out in the floor and his head went rolling down the hall. I wasn't really sure how to help because, well, how did you help with that? So I kind of acted on instinct and ran toward him. Ewan, hi! Unsure how else to keep him upright and his head securely on his shoulders, I closed the distance between us and threw myself against him. Might as well. I figured I could sort of brace him up with my body if he fell, which realistically, he would definitely just crush me to the ground. Glad we realized this. And in the meantime, I slapped my hands against the sides of his face to hold his head in place. Ewan's head shifted weirdly under my hands as his body dipped forward even more, and before I quite realized what was happening, his face was right in front of me. I used one hand to steady his body and pressed my face to his. Well, my mouth to his. Yeah, get it, girl! Face your fears! You get that smooch early, girl! Woo! Woohoo! I could not have asked for a better outcome. Yes. Oh, that's great. Because a kiss was totally a logical way to solve the situation in a natural and not at all attention-grabbing way. kiss him and no one will notice how his head is 2 seconds from falling on the floor. Yeah. Logic. I'm good at it. A day might come when I stopped reacting to everything like the heroine of a ridiculous story. But today was not that day. Luckily for me. Apparently. My face was burning as a collective gasp went up from the nearby group of the students. There were a few juvenile oohs and a smattering of applause. Like, whoa, new girl's bold! I didn't think anybody would be brave enough to kiss the giant. Good job, Nora. Ah, the blush! Ooh, ooh, ooh! For a split second, Ewan didn't react. Then I felt one hand at my waist to steady us both. His other hand covered mine, as if helping to hold his head in place. And time froze for a split second before he released me, apparently having collected himself enough to somewhat function. Our eyes met, and my face went flaming hot. His face was nearly as red as mine. What did I just do? I am never listening to my instincts again. Always listen to your instincts, girl. So good. I dropped my voice to a whisper, trying to ignore how much I wanted to crawl in the locker and die of shame. Fixed?
Yes.
He swallowed hard and quickly staggered into the nearest class. Still wasn't really walking well. I guess it's that emotional distress. Well, rejected.
Lame.
Nobody likes you. I glared at the speaker to find Kara and one of her idiot friends snickering at me. I rolled my eyes and, swallowing every ounce of pride, went after Ewan, despite how I knew it would look. Good on you, girl. Don't pay any attention to the haters. I found him sitting in the empty class with his back to the door, bent over. It looked like he was still supporting his head with his hands, so I figured it must not be fully attached yet. I stepped in and shut the door behind me. Are you okay? Ewan sat there, still silent as the seconds ticked by. Ewan?
What?
Are you okay?
Do I look okay? What were you thinking? What were you even trying to do?
I was trying to...
Just go away.
I was trying to help you! You didn't look like you were going to be able to do anything in time. You were just standing there.
I had control of the situation.
No, you didn't. You looked like you were barely conscious.
I always get a little woozy right before it happens. I didn't need your help. What even was that?
He looked away, one hand covering his mouth. It was the only thing I could think of to do.
Well, it was a stupid idea. How many people just saw that?
You played along, so I don't get why you're yelling at me. His face went red again.
Who wants to play along with something like that?
You, apparently. You know what? I'm out of here. You can sulk alone if you want. I mean, I get that it was weird, but I had been trying to help. I didn't care what his problem was. He didn't get to yell at me like that. Sorry I tried to help. I stormed out of the class, heading for the club. What a jerk. Yeah, he could be nice, but those mood swings were not something I could put up with. He didn't get to be nice one minute, then bite my head off the next. You've been known for your mood swings too, girl. You may have met your match in Ewan. Not okay. Especially since I had just been trying to freaking help.